Ja, vielen Dank. Es tut mir leid, dass ich kein Französisch kann.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry not to speak French and that you have to use the interpretation, but at least I am very happy to be in Paris. And I'm very happy also to have received this prize. It's not only for my work, but also for the promotion of everything I believe in, and I've been believing for 30 years, the integration of clay in the work of the architect. And I will start presenting you my compagnie, Lem, Ton, Erde, with these three words. I would like to express something, because this joins, this reunites everything I have wanted to do forever, and every measure of construction in general will have an impact on the environment. And every construction needs an architecture and aesthetics and has to be sustainable. And so that everything to be resolved, it is also necessary to respect the health and solidity conditions, so the technique, solidity, beauty, and sustainability. And for me, this is essential, that all of these measures taken in construction respect this balance, this equilibrium between these principles, and so that the equilibrium be found and that it could be sustainable. 30 years ago, I had built this. This was my studio. And I wanted to modernize it. And I said, well, why shouldn't I use clay? Why not using it? Clay, you know. So I use clay, I use materials that are going to be sustainable, that will are very, very solid, straw, clay, wood. I won a contest in 1983. It was a wall of clay of 70 meters long. And I thought, at the beginning, I thought it was going to be very beautiful, and I really was awarded the first prize. And therefore, I translated in reality principles, basic principles that were my principles initially. And every time I have done it again, it was easier and easier. In Berlin, I did it with another kind of clay, of another kind of material made with clay, and it's even a strong wall. And it's in the center of Berlin that I was able to build this. But let's look at these pictures. They show, they really touch me deeply. Every time, it's houses that have come up, that have stemmed from the earth, and they are made with clay, with earth. And when one wants to get rid of them, they go back to the earth. So it means that there are many clay buildings. It's really the most important material in the world. We've forgotten that. Look at this. On the one hand, we can be very sad because that material can be demolished very easily. But then, when it's not really well maintained, it goes back to earth. It goes back to where it comes from. Look at this one. When you travel throughout the world, you can see wonderful examples of buildings made with clay. And this really deeply touched me. It comes out from the earth. And even here in France, there is a very long-standing tradition in some regions of earth-made buildings or even adobe. These are houses that are almost 200 years old and they're still there. Why don't we do it anymore? I have tried to understand why it was like this. Why don't we go back to traditional methods? So let's go back to the earth. Where does it come from? What is the source of the constitution of clay? Well, it's for the tectonic plates that mountains that were formed so millions of years ago, and that gives us a sort of endless source. Even at 200,000 meters high, there's still clay. So we have an endless source. There is erosion of the stones, they erode, and then the forest, they enrich the soil. The forest is also a wonderful source of natural products for building. And so we have infinite resources. There is always clay everywhere. Therefore, it's the material that we are going to choose, which is the one that can be found everywhere and that can be excavated to prepare the building, the construction, and that material does not need to be stabilized. What is stabilization anyway? It's adding something to the basic material, but that's not even necessary when you have earth that is 10,000 years old. It's already been stabilized, so you just have to use it and know how to work with it. So this is pure earth, 100% earth, and that's the best material you could get. And that's his house. I made my own house. I took 1,800,000 cubic meters of earth out of there, and for me that was really that was my resource in base material. Really, it was like a commodity for me. See, to the left-hand side, that's made of with 100% of what you see to the right-hand side. It's just compacted. And the construction, that the result with 3 levels with wood and walls that have been made with compacted clay. Of course, we could have done it 300 years ago. Of course, they wouldn't have looked so modern. But let's say I took like a ball of clay and I have used it just like this to build and there is a sort of architectonic charm, and that's the inside. It's been whitened with white earth, which has been isolated, and the clay could be used and make it very, very fine, so that you don't even realize it's clay, and it's not even bad for health. And so, how do we treat the exterior panels? We can even have clay outside. Of course, it rains. It rains a lot in Vorarlberg, and the earth. It comes from there, from that mountain there that you can see, and it's been through erosion. And I do like a sort of erosion. It's a controlled erosion. Let's say that there is a mix of clay and little stones, aggregates we could call them. And in the south, it's very plain because there is no rain, and this is the part which is exposed to the rain. And have this natural erosion, and I recreate the sedimentation just like in the mountain where the rain really runs down and makes it look like that, sort of rugged. So look at my house. This is 2008. This is 2012. So it becomes a little bit more rugged year by year because the erosion does its own work. And at one point, the big stones will not come out. They'll sort of be more protruding. They'll be more apparent. And then it's better and better with the time. It's really an experiment which I'm doing on my own wall. Here, you can see the surface has been washed and the angle stones come out a little bit more with the time. They are more visible. There is a sort of natural reduction of the acceleration of this phenomenon with the passing of the time. You have to fight against psyche that does not believe in that, that is afraid. People are afraid that the wall finally falls down due to erosion, but it's not true. These are other examples that I can show you here. It's you can find this almost everywhere. This is the 15th winter that my house has been through this climate. The color has changed. It has darkened a little bit. You can still see the different layers and how the conglomerate behaves. And I would like to remind you that has been compacted and that it gives a mix which is completely sustainable. And that was the initial material. This is the basic one which I used, and that is with this that I keep on working. That's my really, that's the what I use. You mix it, you look at the hygrometry. We have a machine to do this. It's very modern, but it used to be done by hand. And with this clay building construction, I can obtain exactly the same quality with a machine or just doing it by hand. It's wonderful. And then you can compact it by hand or with your feet, and that's exactly what I'm showing you here. We are repairing a church, a cathedral, and it's, you know, you cannot get a machine into this wonderful building, so we have to do it with your feet, with our feet and with our hands. So that's how you do it with a tool machine. Of course, you can use a very modern tool, so make it with a crane and then compact it with different machines. And of course, that requires to create special machines for that, so that you get to the best quality of raw material that you can use later on. And after many years of activities, I have followed everything, and I have created more and more machines that can produce everything that I need the best way possible. And it's really interesting when you have these great volumes to compact. And thanks to these large machines that we have here, it's very helpful, as you can see, because of course it does all the work that we can do with our feet, but it's great. And that's why it's so interesting to integrate all the modern techniques. But before, everything was done by hand or with the feet. But we have developed these simple machines that do exactly the same work and make our life much easier. This is our plant where we manufacture our clay blocks. They are very big clay blocks. With this material that I have shown you, that makes big chunks, large, 5-meter big. They are cut, numbered, and cut according to the plans, and we produce the blocks. We let them dry. We add bolts and whatever we need to fix them, and we number them. So we all have them classified, and with this machine I can make walls 6 centimeters thick up to 85 centimeters thick. One machine can do everything. You just need to change the different tools that you use in the machine. So we test, we make the big panels, we compact, we transport, we place, we fix. You live in, we live in, and after this material can go back to recycling, so go back to the earth. Would you imagine if we would have built all the cities like that? After 100 years, we could reuse the same material and then rebuild again and again and again. And what is wonderful with this is that it can be melted with water if I really wet it, if I water it, and if I hammer it. I can modify the aspect. Here you can see the way we use it on very large surfaces. And everything we have made in our workshop has been set here in a very sensitive area. They are very beautiful qualities for phonic isolation because around our workshop or company there are many dwellings, and they have no problems thanks to the isolation that this kind of walls provide. I have mentioned also the combination with the clay with wood. That is very important because it goes well together. And we have produced there everything on site. We have integrated all the blocks and the wood and the timber, and this hall is 12 meters high. And the concept of energy is up there. We have a sun collector, and then the energy is brought back down there. And here we have the clay wall. And all this building has been built with ecological material. And it's completely ecological. This is the inside of the hall. There are many things. In the inside, we use it to produce the large blocks. And we have 55 centimeter thick blocks that are set. We fix them, we put the wood roof, and in 2 days we have something which is ready to be used. Something which is really ready to be set, to be installed. So here you can see the exterior isolation, and here we have added a lime treatment. Here is a 3D image of the result. It's been done, of course, with a computer. That's the inside of the building that you can see. It's beautiful, really. It's wonderful to feel that you live with the dry earth that has been compacted, which surrounds you, and it's a very healthy environment. It's just a question of treatment and also surface treatment. You can add tiles if you want to. Here are a couple of other examples that I have here to show you. This is the Ricola Center in Laufen. We have many examples of this type of construction. That was the case of the hall that I showed you was the starting point. We realized that we could create machines to make different things, and here it's to make a 40-centimeter thick wall, and all the material to build all this have all been found in around the same site at 8 kilometers around. The clay is here, the production is here, and the lime comes from here. And all this for the same technique of construction and manufacturing. There we've stocked for several times 450 elements because they have to dry, of course, before being used. And it's a natural drying, waiting. You have just to wait until it's dried and ready to use. And then we take them to the construction site. And these are the very fine powders for the surface treatment. Here in Darmstadt, in Germany, the Alnatura campus, it's a very important example in Darmstadt. That was the second time that we were doing this. Well, it has become our second center, actually, because we move the machines, we recreate a manufacturing center, and then we dismantle everything. And right now, we are mounting a machine for another project, and we still don't have enough machines in order to be to have several machines working at the same time. So that's why we move them from one construction site to the another. There we've made an isolation in the center, in the middle, and we have also added a heating in the thickness of the wall. It can be, air conditioning or heating. This is the machines that were dismantled and remounted here. This is the filler for the isolating material. There are many possibilities that we have here. And here you have the different blocks that can be up to 4 tons and 12 meters high. And here, look at the finished structure. We could build a whole city with this. That would function. That would be perfect. We would know how to make it. But instead of that, they do this. Instead of using natural methods, they use concrete. We use concrete. And of course, it's a wonderful, genius material, but it's been used much too much and without thinking, looking forwards. And really, silt clay should be used. There's everywhere. France, Canada, Asia. You have that everywhere. Everywhere you look around you, you can find earth. You can find clay. Really, you can make blocks. You can make ceilings. You can make roofs. And if you would think of it, if people would reflect on this, if people would reason like that, with Anna Heringer, we are working on this project. It's one of the largest blocks that you've seen before that are going to be used to build this. There are many load-bearing elements, and it's a very complex structure. And And it's one of the first buildings, office buildings, with many load-bearing walls that are made in clay. And it's the first time we do it at such a scale. So just these many offices and industrial buildings that will be together, and that will be the first time that we will do this. And so we are now just producing, since we didn't have enough room in our hall, so we transported all the material there on site so they can dry there. We've already cut them for some, others are still waiting. There is an industrial finishing that has to be done also. See, here we have other examples. We can build any other shapes. This is a student's project that was done in 2013. And the question for the students was, please make a pavilion with clay elements until the finishing, until you finish it. And they had 14 days to make it. With 20 students, we gave them the hall so that they could design and make it. They did everything by themselves, and each of them really participated. And then they joined all the elements, they collected them, and they made something that was really very interesting. It was monolithic. You can make any shapes you want. It's very interesting. That's still a very good use of that material. It's for the floor. You know, floors, you have many possibilities for floors. Here, it's a Gothic church that burned and was renovated. And then after the renovation, we were called to make the floor. There was 450 square meters with our clay. And then we followed the historical motives. First, we made the isolation with the floor, and then we added the heating that was integrated to it. Everything can be brought up because it's only clay. You know, this could be recycled, it could be recuperated. That has almost no impact on the environment. And this is the final surface once it's been cleaned. Once the clay surface has been cleaned, we finished the whole building like this. We didn't have to do these tiling, so we could have done a sort of waxed finishing. And this is a very small project, but it's still very important, you know. It's for the Worms Cathedral. It's the 1,000-year jubilee. We were required to create the altar. And we said, okay, but it had to be very large, very big. It had to be, you know, to represent something that had a meaning. It had to be really meaningful. And then we made this this altar that weighed 5 tons. And we made it together with all the people from the parish. And that was a real event. It was a sort of acupuncture point, you know. That was really a symbol to make the altar made with this adobe or this clay. Yes, because it's really something collective. Everybody really was there and participated. And maybe in 1,000 years, maybe it will be very easy to start again from scratch once again. What will be the result after? Where can we head for? We haven't first we have to build more confidence in that kind of material. But anyhow, you know, we keep on doing some research on it, and we do the research and development to do more analysis and think of future solutions for the future. We've done some experiments on tests on different materials for the ceilings, and we've done some tests, you know, fire tests. And it's also very important also to develop the different machines that are required to make for that. So we have several ideas. That's something that we're doing. You know, we need to do some training. You know, it's like learning by doing. We we contract youngsters who are motivated. I have many here colleagues, collaborators who have come, who have learned, and who have left. And so we can say that clay really sort of is really relates us. It's a wonderful material through which we are all related, and at the end we have a big party. We, you know, parties are very important too. We have to be together, and it's only together that we can be so strong. So, as you know, united we'll be strong. It's really a rebirth here. It's a renaissance that we're doing during the First World War and during the Second World War. We went back to this natural resource, and we forgot it again. But nonetheless, clay is everywhere, and I am sure that in France there are companies that will do it, and that still do it, and that will choose this element. And it's very important that as many as builders use this material. It's such a sustainable material. It's so easy to use. Thank you very much.